Why words now? Contemporary art writing daily. Why words now? Contemporary art writing daily. Why words now? Contemporary art writing daily.
Hello. My name is Simon Dybbroe Møller, and this is Why Words Now. Tonight, I'm honored to be able to introduce the sequel to contemporary art writing daily's play, Certain Dinners, performed only once in this very room almost exactly 1 year ago. You can watch Certain Dinners at whywordsnow.com. As I told my shrink the other day, I only ever share my issues with my friends after discussing them with him. As I told my shrink the other day, I say, as I told my shrink the other day, my friend told me, don't tell people about your dreams, it will bore them to death. Featuring court representative Adam Callier and sculpture school student Johan Beck Jespersen, this is Contemporary Art Writing Daily and their play, Life and Hell. Enjoy.
It was windy in my dream. I saw a yacht, the Convent of Solace, docked across from a massive building that said Ocean Getaway. The sound on the outside was big and curvy and looked like it was carved from styrofoam, dipped in page. Each curve was faceted and imperfect, but it was beautiful, precise in its own way. I entered the building. There's a receptionist sitting there. I asked the receptionist where they had the sign made, and she says, "We make our sign." What does that mean?
It sounds like sleep paralysis, potentially.
Is it some type of allergy? Like, maybe it's about my brother? We sort of had...
Leave the analysis to me. You are not trained in dream work.
I also had a dream where I was giving myself a blowjob.
And did you come?
What?
Why do I find it boring, people talking about their dreams? Dreams aren't really stories. There's no real risk and nothing is accomplished. It's just a dream. Good fiction is a craft. It's something you know nothing about. Earlier you mentioned the notion of your potential, your desire to be a great artist. I believe you used the word immortal. Is that the goal of art? Immortalization?
Some people have said I have so much potential. And I know that. But what if I'm nothing but potential? What if I'm only potential? Like Paul Tech, who never got out of bed in the morning.
What does that mean for someone who doesn't really follow art?
Paul Tech was romantic, a form of beauty rearing close to cliché, an artist who formulated his own death, his tomb, and the institution's grave rubbing ponderous. They stole pages from his books to be sealed in frames like assembling artifacts, the hippie's tomb. He did like everything. I've done nothing.
That sounds like art. And you are worried that you are all potential.
Yeah. Like a baby buffalo or something.
Everybody thinks they have potential. Your entire generation has imposter syndrome. That's why I'm booked constantly. They know that they're a fraud, and they need to talk about it. They just don't have any friends they can trust.
That's true. Real friends can hold our secrets.
Have you ever heard how the skeletons are worth more to the museum?
What?
The skeletons. A museum cannot harbor life. It can't hold woolly mammoths or the artists. That would be cost prohibitive. But when it's preserved, when you turn yourself into a bog body to preserve yourself,
I'm not sure how this relates really.
you need to turn yourself into a skeleton.
What?
I told you, I don't follow art.
I guess what I'm saying is, Paul Tech had the hottest subjects, the rotten subject. He's my paragon, I guess.
I guess that's the conundrum of art. I've never even heard of him.
Well, all the people I like have heard of him.
Do you ever think you're living in hell?
In hell, what? Can you try and focus? Like, people are paying to be here.
Sorry. I can see that you're really frustrated.
We're frustrated. It's been bubbling for a while, I gotta say. I feel like I've been working so hard for years and I'm not getting what I deserve.
Success is not always based on talent or rigor. There are things like luck and timing, as well as other things like the astrological, like cosmic things. I don't really follow art, but like life, there are other advantages like physical beauty, nepotism, vibes, or whatever. Would it be more useful to focus on your own journey and not worry so much about what others are doing?
That is exactly it. We're constantly told that about art's journey, how we should do this because we love this. I feel like I'm being told to shut up essentially, to find enjoyment in my fate as a miserable artist, because eventually my hard work will pay off. Like, if I commit to God now, I will be rewarded in some kind of afterlife.
Well, how can you find joy and satisfaction in the process rather than just focusing always on the outcome?
You are doing this thing again. You're just telling me to keep my head down, keep working, find enjoyment in the moment. But I'm starving. Meanwhile, the socialites are taking over the business, the parlor radicals. The world devolves into a party and I'm supposed to stay in my basement. And the worst thing, enjoy staying in my basement.
Maybe you can't change the fact that socialites are taking over the art world, but you can control your own work, your own mindset.
Again, the artistic suffering is made into authenticity. The more pain, the more sales value added. This is the vaporization process of art. Artistic hardship is reclaimed like wood, connoisseurs of it. Both pain and wood are expensive right now, but it's like empire lays the concrete of its social conditions and proclaims, look, a dandelion have grown in hell. Then they hang the photos in our hall as a testament to humanity. But it often seems more like a testament to the concrete, a mythos of suffering has to feel like instructions for it.
It's true. We're building a guest house right now. Dimensional lumber is incredibly expensive. You were trapped in an artwork, is that right?
I think so. I really do.
And this was a traumatic experience for you, that's why you're here.
The world is difficult. Have you heard of Contemporary Art Writing Daily?
No.
It's a website.
A website trapped you? Are you looking for internet addiction counseling?
I was trapped in their artwork. It was confusing. There was smoke And it might have been toxic. There were delicious refreshments, tiny carrots and dip, champagne and beer, and they were giving it away.
Why would anyone give away free champagne? When you say trapped, do you mean this metaphorically?
This is the thing he said, the very thing he said. He said it was all metaphor, but I really felt trapped.
One can feel trapped by an artwork without being physically trapped. Good art enraptures.
I think the metaphor was about something larger. There was this thing he said about dinners, about champagne glass being handcuffs.
Well, that sounds senseless. You said there was toxic smoke, and how did the toxic smoke make you feel?
You know the feeling when you're driving in a car and it goes over the hill in just this right way where you get this weightlessness feeling. Imagine that happening again and again and again and again.
For how long were you trapped in an artwork?
About 4 days. He said I could leave anytime, but he told me I chose to stay. I might have permanent lung damage, I think.
Why stay somewhere so toxic?
That's the question everyone is dealing with. Again, there are things to eat and drink.
I'm sorry? I'm sorry? I don't quite follow.
And it's not only that, but the amount of cigarette one needs to smoke at an art opening, just to be there. Between Simon's smoke, my smoke, and everyone else's smoke, I'm pretty much at capacity. I think I'm dying. I think I might be done.
That doesn't sound good.
The smoke had a bad base. I was trapped in an artwork, and he showed me his foot, and there were no toenails.
Is Simon in the room right now?
Being an artist it's not normal. It isn't. Like, why would you? You get to do things and meet people, but you have to live through the smoke. God, grief, it's a pain. At the peak of my time, at the peak of my professional career, whatever, I remember going to watch the Steelers play on TV, and my friend's brother-in-law arrived with a bagel, and he also had a soda. I was 32 years old, and I couldn't afford it. I remember thinking, I should be able to afford a bagel, and maybe even a soda. I was being reviewed in a newspaper. It wasn't good reviews, but it was a culmination. It was something. An artist in print. And I couldn't afford bagels.
So this story examines your own path, wherein you were presented with a choice.
I had no money because I was an artist and because I made terrible choices, I think. You get into this exchange of pain, presumably with the hope of being exhibited and eventually critiqued. I'm not complaining about watching football and not having a bagel. I'm saying I'm in this, in like this major way. Maybe the most major way, really.
Because you suffer.
Yes, I suffer. I love my sculptures. I'm not sure my teachers understand me, and that's okay, I understand. I'm still deciding on the facts about myself. In the beginning, there was darkness, formless and empty. Over the surface of the deep, hovering over the waters, and he said, "Let there be contemporary art daily." And there was. And he saw that contemporary art daily was good, and he separated those exhibitions for the limelight from those from the darkness, and contemporary art daily called its light of contemporary relevance, and the darkness not worthy of publication. Forest.
My students want to know how to be famous artists, but I can't teach that. That is obvious.
And this makes you...
I can't even teach how to make a living from being an artist. I deflect. The thing is, the students know this. I put the onus on them to make their dreams reality. They know secretly that I am a failure. Each one of them more stoic than the last. That's why no one will ask me directly. They know I'm cheese. But the students also know that if they don't pretend in the system, it falls apart. Terror holds this whole thing together.
You believe that your students can see through you.
We pretend like we're talking about art, but we're really just circling the question of how to survive.
They arrive at the talk to have light provided in darkness.
Nobody knows. The question of how to put some gloomy bread on the table is supplanted with the question of how to live a good life.
Artistic questions?
This is a metaphor for all art. Made-up solutions to imaginary problems. We talk about some abstraction in front of us instead of the fact that the moment we leave this room, we're all going to starve and die.
So you fear that you're failing the same people that have been entrusted with, that you have been entrusted with preparing for the art world?
I'm worried about my professional reputation. I have an audience before me. What do I say to them? How do I make them understand?
You want the audience to leave the show feeling better prepared for the world?
A lot of professors are judged by how many famous artists they put into the world. I can't tell them this, but their stupidity reflects badly on me.
Living a good life is not enough.
God, no, of course not.
So, how many famous artists have you created?
Oh, God.
So, what is an art critic like? Art critique?
Critique. It's just the worst thing you can imagine. You all sit around while some slug presents their work, and you critique it in like a semicircle around it.
And the professor critiques it.
The professor leads the discussion, but it's mostly just the students talking, like the professor owns the business. And the students all generate content for him, I would say.
Are the students participating?
I guess, I mean, we all pretend like we know what we're talking about, but no one is ever wrong. I mean, people are definitely wrong, but you can't say that, which is probably the worst part, people's opinions. A contrast between color and form, bifurcation, dichotomy, contingency, architecture. I want these people to define contingency to me just once, tell me.
It sounds like group therapy. The task of the group to build the group rather than focus on problem solving or fixing individuals. The technique is probably called projective psychotherapy. It involves immersing the patients in a fictional world, one which it's accessible to the artist / the psychiatrist. In art school, the artwork is the fictional world. It's subject to alternative interpretation, but it's not subject to change.
Let's just say I have to deal with a lot of assholes.
Which one of them would you kill first?
Sorry, what?
By utilizing a structured fantasy world, the subconscious can be accessed without the resistance of the conscious mind.
Yeah, but I'm not sure you can...
In the realm of fantasy, the darkest pleasures are sacrosanct.
So, after realizing that you're not able to afford bagels, was something that was impactful to you?
I don't know, but since that moment, I am an artist. I was burned with it. More recently, I've set out to start my own paper, to say whatever I want to say, and I've already been met with great resistance.
Resistance to your paper?
Just last night, I was accosted by an abstract painter from LA. She didn't like that I have written about her work. She suggested that maybe I haven't even seen it in person. I tried to explain to her that was the whole point. Now we're reviewing only the candy packaging of art. Other artists were passing plates of food around. It's impolite to talk over people's food. Germs can fall onto it. I called the work psychedelic or something. I was having such a nice time before that. It made me question my whole participation in the world.
And do you think that your participation in this world would immortalize you?
You don't begin by dating models. You begin by dating your neighbors or mailmen or other people that work in your neighborhood. I cared too much about art, really. I had to hone my craft. I had to learn how to speak clearly, and I needed to learn fast. For the first time to no longer exist, I had to jump through that window.
Keep going.
I began by going to spas, and the next day writing about my experiences, things that could have been better, things that could not have been any worse, the way that I was talked to, the way I wanted to be talked to. I would write about the lighting, the locker rooms, whether the elevators were fast or slow. I was incredibly harsh, really, which people enjoyed. In addition to developing my skills, the spas had me feeling really relaxed.
Do you think it's healthy to spend so much time doing this? What you call critiquing? It's true. In a world of so much surveillance, planes can still go missing in the dark part of the ocean. They just vanish. It's unthinkable for a plane to disappear, so anchors on CNN speak continuously to its unfathomability, babbling like a comfort nightlight. If we remain on air speaking against it, it has not yet come true. The plane isn't gone. Babbling and babbling to let someone on the other side of the screen know you are there. Taking up space, presence is more important than anything.
Yes. I babble to let somebody know that I'm here. That's why I have a paper. That's why the font is gold.
When I started Contemporary Art Writing Daily, I couldn't afford the internet. I would drive to big box stores and sit in my car writing about contemporary art from the parking lot. I would send these professional emails from the front seat of a Ford Taurus. The day laborers carrying lumber, and I'm sending emails to Berlin about concepts of despondency, discussing schedules, dates. And I was too broke to even have the internet. I've never even bought a roll of paper towels.
Again, the theme of suffering.
Well, the myth is important. This is actually true.
So, Contemporary Art Writing Daily is a website that began in 2004 as a way to critique the overall, quote, social panopticon of digital media's relentless onslaught, the image as a radical hegemony.
Which is true, and they were the ones that took it as seriously as it actually was.
I don't follow contemporary art, really.
Fair enough. So, you were in Copenhagen.
The last play ended with a foot.
A foot?
Yeah. He pulled out his foot. On stage like bear, said it resembles shrimps.
The play ended with a foot.
There's really something really, really raw about pulling out a foot in the middle of something. It's... Also, he doesn't have any toenails.
Why the foot?
There was all this back and forth about metaphor, about wanting to see the person who it was and who it wasn't. That's part of this thing about anonymousness. Everyone, you, people want to know the body. People demand the body. It becomes this anointing. To whom should the crown or the guillotine bestow? I think the unveiling the foot was a way of giving the body its proper due. It said we needed to protect the body at all costs, especially from metaphor. A foot, it's just there, a slab of meat, and uncontrollably meatness to the foot.
A foot.
I mean, imagine if I pulled out my foot right now, in the room, in front of you. Weird, right? We didn't talk about this until after, and I think that's...
But Bataille has a short essay about the foot, and it's brilliant. Thus supposing that the queen's foot was perfectly pretty, it still derived its sacrilegious charm from deformed and muddy feet. Since a queen is more ideal and ethereal being than any other, it was human to the point of laceration to see what in fact was not very different from the stinking foot of a thug. How did they get his toenails off?
With the pliers.
I think it's about giving the audience the body, embodiment of the character. Staring at toes. The toes' disfigurement marks it as real. He really didn't have any toenails?
I was trapped.
Yeah, but really, it's about everything else. He would always say, "Chain of suffering is why you get cancer, you meat eaters." I never knew what he meant, and I think he didn't either. He would order a cheeseburger from McDonald's and peel the meat patty from the bun and throw the patty out the window. He'd eat the leftover bun with the cheese and the pickle or whatever. He would go on and on about this chain of suffering. Chain of suffering, chain of suffering. Carcinogenic chain of suffering. And to be honest, the breakfast was bad. The sausage was too dark. It was too dark. It was brown. It should have been gray. And the audience will be looking for some through line to see the characters as identifiable and stable.
Your thoughts?
Everyone's thoughts. There's something in there, but I need them to find it.
So you titled your play Explaining the Art World to Your Therapist. How am I supposed to feel about that?
That was just a working title. And one of the things I found so compelling about Ed's work was that it felt like it was from beyond the grave. Like, obviously, aspects of death are a part of it, but the artwork's voice feels embalmed, like how Van Gogh paintings feel vitrified, mausoleum-like. All art, essentially, is a death mask.
Ed is your imaginary friend.
No. I'm his imaginary friend.
Spas are a prison, therapy, textbook prison. If Foucault were alive, we would have already known that spas are a prison, healthcare, textbook biopolitics. This therapy is merely a social reproduction. This is just people being readjusted into alignment with dominant culture. They talk about processing. They call it self-improvement. They say that everyone should.
Do you ever feel like understanding something is different than using something?
What?
Size is a cruelty. We don't want our more fragile moments blown up on walls. Child burn units develop these for children pre-language. To describe their pain as burned children in white rooms of red flesh. Is there anything more unimaginable than this? As a means of exchange, we turn emotion into a signifier, turn it into plastic information, capable of all sorts of manipulation, a universal metric to measure human suffering. Can you imagine making this? Your pain is universal, equivocal, exchangeable for the pain of others. And this is the best we could come up with to communicate with the red children. The world is still primitive, and its virtualization even more so. You're lucky to have one good teacher. And the bad ones have ruined everything. They blather on and on about the good old days. Cal Arts, Black Mountain, the disembodied school of whatever, the one near Denver. But in reality, they champion mediocrity. They prefer unchallenged relationships with artists. Artists who would have been laughed out of the room back in those good old days. I was at a bonfire once and I saw my English teacher sitting naked on a sofa next to the fire. No one else was naked. And I'm not saying this was good. It was probably bad, but it was at least interesting. The naked English teacher. And he was an adjunct. He had something on the line. The tenured are untouchable. They don't care. They just play solitaire on their computers.
What hard is, you can have bad people who are good teachers.
And there will be another critique next week. Critique after critique, them all staring and drinking seltzer like I'm the lighthouse, looking at the same terrible paintings. The zombie formalists and their reference-shredded process. I swear, any more of this and I'm going to kill somebody. I feel like I could snap.
Who would you kill first?
Lay these paintings on the couch, endlessly expound a psychological profile, develop an emotional game plan, and send them out the door better than they came in. But then we wouldn't have Rothko. So. One of my students, his thesis performance was cutting an onion in half and rubbing the halves into his eyes.
Why did Tech create an effigy of himself? Why would he create a scarecrow that looked like him dead?
Sometimes by creating a representation, you free yourself from the burden of having to be seen.
Eventually, he abandoned it. It got destroyed.
Transformation, metamorphosis, yeah.
A version of yourself you can place into a container.
And in this play, he's constructing a body.
He looks just like you. Come, my lady, come, my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby, come, my lady, you're my sugar fly. Aruba, Jamaica, oh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Chilada, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, wanna go to Komodo, La Mara, we get free and do it to Canada, and show it that's where we wanna go, until La Comata, the terror, mythinique, and the monstrous mystique of anything.
In the sense that criticism is just saying things that soothe, yeah, that is a fear. People expect a diagnostic function of criticism. That is a cultural placebo, a medicinal confidence trick. The critic merely fulfills the role of performing rationality to make it look like there is a reason in the system, because the system is obviously unreasonable.
Therapy can be a useful tool to re-narrate past traumas.
I think that I fear being useful. I fear appearing useful to a system that is sick. The role of the critic is to continue the myth that things are meaningful.
And that's why you're a critic?
I'm not a plumber or an electrician. Oh, what a luxury.
Do you fear being a plumber?
Yes.
You're an artist.
Yeah, well, sort of. So I write a website more than make art. It's not acrylics or anything. It's art criticism.
And that's art?
It's anonymous.
And that is art?
Some people don't consider it art.
Why are you anonymous?
Everyone wants to know.
It seems like the obvious question. There are nothing more scary than the monster in the closet of your mind.
Do I have to answer your question?
Avoidance, possibly depressed, low libido.
So I basically write reviews of a website called Contemporary Art Daily.
That is your website.
No, it's this guy named Forrest. It's his website. My website is called Contemporary Art Writing Daily.
Contemporary Art Daily and Contemporary Art Writing Daily. And they are...
Contemporary Art Daily post art from all over on this website. Daily. It's a big deal. Or it used to be a big deal. Everything has sort of moved to Instagram, but it was a really big deal. Everyone looked at it.
Everyone?
You had artists saying that they checked it every day, saying it in print, admitting they did it first thing in the day. wake up, sweep the floor, check the website. Somehow, this was electrifying back then. People talked about contemporary art daily fatigue. Essays were penned. Good ones, even. It was like a digital bonfire we all gathered around to see ourselves reflected in it. Here it is, the art world, reflected in each other's eyes. Imagine if the audience could see themselves in my eyes. Wouldn't that be worth checking?
Narcissism, possibly God complex.
It really doesn't make any sense now, but back then it was the first time on the internet where we felt like we could see everything all at once, almost pornographically.
Back then, everything was porn. Food porn, ruin porn, porn, addiction issues.
Yeah, it was literally the first time in this world that we felt like we were seeing everything. Like, do you understand how that could be powerful? The panopticon was manifest with really, really good lighting. Now we have the feed.
I can't believe they came up with such a humiliating name, the feed. Jesus. Us all hogs gobbling bulimia. And your website is involved with CAD?
No. Well, my website, Contemporary Art Writing Daily, was a parasite. We just copied their website exactly. We wrote reviews of the shows they posted. And we did it every day, daily.
And people found this interesting?
Are you implying that it is not interesting?
It's all a bit coy, isn't it? Knowing.
Yeah, but that's sort of the point.
And you copied them. And they weren't mad?
Forrest has always been kind in his emails. Though he has insinuated that he receives occasional angry emails intended for us, which is not pleasurable for him. But his is the system that fed us these artists. So if you know that your conveyor belt leads to a slaughterhouse, don't you have some responsibility there?
You are a slaughterhouse?
Forrest referred to systemically important artists. Systemically important. I find it interesting. It acknowledges that an artist is contingent to a machine.
Did you just say contingency?
Yeah, what?
Nothing. Go ahead.
I mean, I think the real aspect of their success was that they knew what would be big in the next year because of the implicit way that the art world operated. They could read between the lines of an artist's resume. They didn't really know what mattered so much as they saw who could make things matter. The art world is a network of galleries. Being represented by one is just being teed up, and Contemporary Art Daily saw that it wasn't the art that generated clicks, it was the network.
The system produced artists, but you, brilliant critique, you create meaning?
No, I think we've existed so long being told and thinking of art as being meaningful that now the object on the wall literally speaks. A little factory for meaning, spitting out a ticker tape, call it a press release. And we decode it, a monster that speaks in hieroglyphs.
And this is a problem?
We value painting not for its beauty, but for its meaning. The artwork now has the ability to continuously provide that myth.
You are meaningful.
Hey, I'm paying you for epiphanies. I'm not trying to be the light in the night.
This fits with your theory about the babbling, pattern-seeking behavior, maybe
At a certain
schizophrenia.
point, I realized that this was Adam's play, not mine.
Who is Adam?
He's one of the actors. He co-wrote it with me.
How did he get involved?
We connected through poetry. He's a poet. He also sells jewelry.
I don't follow poetry. He wrote the play. Multiple personalities.
I would just add things to the Google Docs. Force characters to say things. He was writing it, and it's nice to give up the form, to inhabit someone else's play. Do you understand? Freed from responsibility? How that could be freeing? Stealing someone else's website?
Why are you against responsibility? About being seen, targeted, individual syndrome?
It's my artistic decision to alleviate myself.
Do you ever think you just invented a fantasy world to live in? A fiction?
Yeah, but it's my fiction.
Paranoid disorder? What are you trying to alleviate?
I have no responsibility but to the world I invented. It's easy to explain what COD does, even if it's annoying. It's a parasite, like we parasite, anonymously. We vampire the cultural echo chamber, malaise, critique, but that's not actually what it does. Have you read the words? Have you seen the inside? This is the wet part, the foot. I want a world that you can just put things in without dealing with the frame. The novel is the carrier of meaning, not the book. COD is basically a project of stealing empty frames, injecting internalness, the guts, blood. That's the stuff I like. The shells are shells, shell corporations. I'm not interested in having a beautiful face. That's why he excessively detailed the liver spots.
Failing liver? And you went to Copenhagen. Did you enjoy yourself?
I did, immensely.
Why do you think it's necessary to go back a second time?
I don't know. We had an indelible meal at Schoenemann. Oh, the waiter looked into my eyes as the aquavit spilled onto the table. Gesture of true abundance, real hospitality. Hot dogs on the waterfront, their beechwood essence. The tile floors at Thorvaldson's. Pizza and sandwiches at night. And everyone was so welcoming at the academy. Believe it or not, we're not always so welcome.
Hot dogs. That is not an answer. Why did you go back?
I don't know. I don't respect books or movies with sequels.
And yet, ego gets in the way.
But what if it's like a sitcom that was amnesiac? Like the coyote never catches the roadrunner, his hunger is Sisyphean law. This is like explaining oneself. Despite his latex body, he contains a prayer, ties a bib, grabs a fork and knife, and straps himself to a rocket. He goes right back to where he started. I'm also still deciding on the facts about myself. A story like a self-healing cutting mat. You could beat Seinfeld to death, fill his torso with shotgun slugs. He could return the next episode unharmed. Characters that are capable of immense battle damage.
You sound desperate. Going back was a mistake. Why did you go back?
Because I wanted to say that. COD was started because I wanted a voice against the feed. I was so tired of being steamrolled by it. It felt lonely. I wanted a disembodied voice to channel that emptiness. I wanted to explain. I wanted to explain the last play. I was thinking about how you give something to an audience. It feels like you're handing the audience something, handing them your difficulty. Same as all art. Rothko hands you a bucket of darkness, says, carry this, kills himself. Needs therapy, sort of like Alcoholics Anonymous. Hi, I'm an artist. Here's my story. We invent these systems in different forms. The artist talk. The artist talks. An artist talk. Talk. This is how you get corrupted. Eventually you get intertwined, which is the same as ensnared because you know these people. your opinion is no longer neutral, so you bite your tongue and you become a compromised asset. I can't say what I want to. I can't talk about what I think about all of this. I'm silenced, but even worse, heard. But I wanted to go back. I wanted to be invited. I want to hear myself heard. I babble to let someone know I'm there as well, because then I won't be missing. They know how it works. You get into an exchange. Access starts to feel legitimizing. You can't give that up, so you go back. Have you ever seen the movie Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage? A culture, say a magazine or a museum, that can purchase absolution through an art that gesticulates critique, gets to hang it on a wall. I provide that. There are objects and images, and there are texts, and there are voices doing the explaining. There's an archive that also contains my memories, and there's a basement where I keep the things I don't want to show. Just as art cannot exist outside the field of art, I cannot exist outside the field of art, at least as what I am, which is an artist. This is also the limit of institutional critique. I can attack those internal objects. I can rip at the walls of my institutional body, but I cannot tear it down completely. And I can't leave it, because I would then not only cease to have an effect within the field, but I would also cease to exist. And that sucks.
Does this cause cancer?
What?
Does this cause cancer?
I would say always wear gloves. Don't use your mouth to hold your tools. Don't be dipping your fingers in every type of coating imaginable.
That's not really what I mean.
Lithography killed my first wife's brother.
I mean the smoke, everything. Do you think that I will be famous?
In your future, I see many things. There will be dark and formless times, and there will also be times in the limelight. You will be of contemporary relevance.
Being an artist is not special, but it's not normal either. Good versus bad, good versus normal. And we might not be normal. We came out here to do a good job, but we might necessarily not do good. Art and the work might not be good. You don't want it to be good because good is normal. Because it's bad, but being bad isn't attractive either. We are more or less normal artists because it's hard to explain to the normal world. Normal isn't necessarily evil. We are not evil. We want to be good. I want to be functional. You don't want to fight against things all the time, but you want to have an opinion and comfortable expressing it in a way that lets people know that you might disagree with the way the world is, but without telling them what to think. I want you to wear this